What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Spectator Mode Podcast, episode 35. I'm your host, Keith Mitchell, and as always, I'm joined by Diego Perez. Diego, what's going on, sir?
Hey, man. Oh, man, I've been really busy, but video games.
And Rob Dole. Rob, what have you been doing? I cut you off. What were you about to say?
I'm just saying I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I've also been very, very busy this week. Whole bunch of crap going on. I'm trying to get stuff out of the way now so that when games start coming out, like, lo and behold, I mean, they already are, but like really gonna jump into gear. I want to be ready. So I've been trying to get busy stuff out of the way and all sorts of stuff. So I've been getting as much gaming time as I can, but not as much as I want. So.
All right, you can understand that, and I've been busy myself. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and say we've got a bunch of podcasts that you should check out. We got the Spectator Mode Podcast, obviously. You can check it out at our website and also audioboom.com, as well as the Nintendo Entertainment Podcast, which is ran by a couple cool guys in our staff as well. They're big Nintendo nuts. If you like Nintendo, check those guys out. All right, guys, so we've got a bunch of things we want to talk about. We've got Doom, PlayStation 5 talk, game file sizes, and Blizzard and the snafu they've been going through this week. So let's take it from the top. Games we've been playing this week. Rob, you're first. Go ahead, man.
Real thin. I have been playing Destiny 2. That is pretty much it. Like I kind of mentioned before, I haven't gotten as much gaming time in as I wanted to, but pretty much all of that time's been dedicated to Destiny. I've been power leveling as much as I can. I think I'm up to like 912, 913, something like that, compared to I think I was at like 850 last week. So I made some progress. I'm just trying to knock out a bunch of quests, and granted, today I started with way less than I had before, and now I have twice as much because I just walked around and grabbed like 20 quests. So now I'm even deeper into the hole than I was before. So I've been playing a lot of that and just kind of going through it, getting better stuff, and the old loop.
Yeah, Destiny's all about that loop. Diego, what have you been going through?
Oh, man, I have been knee deep in a game that I can't talk about yet. Well, I mean, I can't share I guess I can tell you guys what it is. I just can't share. I've been playing Trails of Cold Steel 3, and I can't say whether I like it or not, but you guys know I've been excited for this game for a long time. If you listen to the show, you know that I love Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2. But yeah, that game's long, so the embargo lifts like this week. My review will be up.
Is it really this week?
Yeah, I believe it's Tuesday, because the game's out on the 24th or 25th, so it comes out like this 22nd, actually. Same week as like Modern Warfare and all that, but the embargo's up a week before launch. But I'm still not done with it, and it's very long, and I have to write that review. But,
yeah, before you say any more, I will definitely say for those who have a question regarding that one, because I know there's been a lot of contention in the gaming journalist scene. Don't rush through that. If you can't beat that embargo, please take your time. We don't do that crap here. If the
I
game,
still feel like it's really important to have a review out on embargo day if you can. Like, obviously,
if we can.
Like, give it priority. Like, you don't just like don't put off the game for like multiple days, but like. Yeah. We don't get paid for this. It's not a professional gig. So like if I miss it, I miss it. But as you know, I take this stuff really seriously. Like I treat it as if it's a professional gig. So I'm going to have that review up right as the embargo drops. Look forward to that on Tuesday. But other than that, man, I jumped in the wonderful world of live streaming this week. And
yes, you have.
I've been wanting to do this for a while. I got like a really nice webcam. I have my microphone that I do the podcast with, and I figured, I'm going to start. So I started a Mixer channel. I streamed Ghost Recon for my first stream. Still not. I don't like that game. In my opinion, has not changed. I did some VR stuff on Tuesday. Nobody came and watched. Typical new streamer stuff. I had about 10 or 11 followers, but everything changed yesterday. I'm in stream mode right now.
He's still in stream mode. Look at him.
I said chat because I've been doing it. I was originally gonna do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then I liked it so much now I do every weekday. And I'm gonna go live after this show because some of my regulars that I have asked if I would, and I'm gonna do it because I have regulars now. Yesterday. Wow. I was going to stream Marvel Spider-Man in a full Spider-Man suit as like a gimmick because gimmicks help your channel grow. I was playing Minecraft with a friend on a whim yesterday, early in the morning before I normally go live. So it wasn't even regular stream time. I go live Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I was playing Minecraft and I was like, I'm going to put this on later. Why don't I just put it on now? And I put just the mask on, not the rest of the suit. So I was like in a Spider-Man mask in my normal clothes. I went from like 12 followers to 50. It was ridiculous.
You are playing one of the most popular games on Mixer. I don't understand, and I'll say this: I am very ignorant when it comes to Minecraft. I never understood it when it first came out. I never understood the popularity of the game throughout any of the years. My son loves it, but all he does is run around and break stuff. He doesn't really do anything. I don't know what it is. I can't get into it. I'm sorry, but people still love that game.
The thing with Mixer though is like you have these big channels that bring in like a couple hundred viewers, and that's like that occupies a lot of like Minecraft say has 2,500 viewers. You have the top 3 channels that have like a few hundred each, but then after that it drops off to like 30, 20, lower than that. So like if you can get a few friends or like people to lurk in your chat, or if you start getting viewers in, like we have a concurrent average of 15, which is really, really good for that stream. You show up higher, and then it's like a snowball kind of thing. Like more people show up because you're higher and higher on the list. Like I had a lot of success streaming Red Dead Online on Tuesday because it's kind of a smaller game on Mixer, and if I had like 3 or 4 viewers, people started rolling in because I was in like top 3 rows. It's not like Twitch where if you have that you're like buried, because there are barely any viewers on Mixer, which is really cool. It's easy to grow, I think, if you do everything right and play.
Yeah, it's definitely not saturated. That's one of the good things about Mixer. It's not saturated.
It's not as saturated, but there's also like a lot less viewers. So
yeah, it's basically a double-edged sword.
It's pretty much the little leagues of Twitch because it's like the proportion's still the same. It's just there are less streamers, but there's less people to watch. But it's still easier to get seen, I think, just because everything's smaller. There's less streamers in total.
Yeah,
I agree.
But other than that, I haven't played much. I've just been streaming and like trying to get through trails as fast as I can. So yeah, all right. That's been my week.
And pretty much for me, same thing as last week. I'm still playing Destiny 2. I'm trying to find clans so I can raid with them or as a third wheel because I'm just waiting to go through those raids. I'm seeing at 936 light score or power score right now. Yeah, I want to raid so bad. I just want to try. I've never raided in Destiny 2. Outside of that, no, it's pretty much been it. I get up, I go to work, I come back, I do my dailies, I do my weeklies, I play Crucible. I need help. I need to stop playing Crucible.
Well, when I get up to level, I will certainly try and raid with you. I mean, right now I'm too low, but when I finally get up there, it's time. I want to go too. So,
but Keith, man, you've been playing a lot of Destiny. Like I checked because I've been on Steam now. 92 hours played recently. That's a lot.
Recently. Wow.
Yeah, I have
issues. Came out last week.
But it's been that. But again, I will literally sit there for hours playing Crucible and Gambit. Just sit there and just play it. I've recently fell in love again with scout rifles, even though they're not the best rifles in the game. But it's so good. You can just sit in the back, mid-range, and pick people off. And like, oh, he's got a scout rifle. He can't do anything. You're getting headshots nonstop. And it's like, yeah, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they buff scout rifles with Shadowkeep too, and they're in a good spot, I feel.
The multi-tool still really good? Because I have that, and I've been upgrading it slowly. I don't know.
If you want to know more about it, there is a really decent subreddit. I think it's called Crucible. I'll give it to you. I go to it a lot.
Cool, because I've been like looking around for like a tier list site for so long, and I can't find a reliable one. So if you could hook me up with that would be great. Because I've been trying to figure out what's good or not. Because
I found it by going Destiny 2 meta, because it always changes whenever an expansion or a patch drops, and it was like, oh, here's all the good stuff here. So yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
Cool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the games I was looking forward to this year, Doom Eternal, which I've been following nonstop because Doom was one of the first games I've ever played in school. And I've always been a big fan of Doom. And then when Doom 2016 came out, I was like, wow, this game is the best game ever. And it ended on a cliffhanger. And since then, I've been waiting for the sequel. Well, we got it, Doom Eternal, and we're just waiting for it to come out, which means now we're going to have to wait just a little longer because the game got delayed until March 20th, 2020. Was not a good time when I heard that. A lot of people were like, no, this can't be true. Why are you pushing this game back? Obviously, id Software and Bethesda wanted them to push it back to make it the best game possible, which I agree 100%. Anytime a developer wants to delay the game to put more polish into a game, I am all for it. More developers and more publishers need to do this.
Yeah, plus it's only 4 months. It's not that long of a delay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Diego would agree with me, especially with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Pretty sure that could have dealt with some more.
Yeah,
well, that needed more than a few months, but yeah.
So it's delayed, but that's not the bad thing. the bad thing is, it's right in the middle of a crap ton of games that are coming out next year. The beginning of 2020, all the way up to the spring, is a nonstop bombardment of really amazing games.
Yeah, January through May is like, it's nonstop packed with just heavy hitter after heavy hitter almost every week.
Yeah.
We've got Final Fantasy VII Remake. Oh, excuse me, my throat's still against. Like every time I jump on a podcast, my throat goes, "Yep, screw you, Keith." So Final Fantasy, we've got Animal Crossing that comes out the same day as Doom.
I think those are different audiences, though.
Yeah, they're definitely different audiences.
Even though Doom's out on Switch, but that Switch version is launching even later than that, right? It's not day and date anymore.
Nope, there is no date for the version of Doom on the Switch.
Wow.
So
that's on Stadia though, or is that still going to be launch day?
Still launch day.
Okay.
So let's talk about the games come out in 2020. So okay, no,
I have the list.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Starting off January 16th. Well, this is in Japan, but you got the new Yakuza game. But January 17th, our first major release is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Looking forward to that.
Then next week you have a bunch of smaller games: Tokyo Mirage Sessions on Switch, Crystal Chronicles Remastered, Walking Dead VR, Journey to the Savage Planet. A bunch of mid-tier games. February you have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and that's on the 11th. Last of Us Part 2 is on the 21st. Gods and Monsters is 4 days later, and then Iron Man VR is 3 days after that. Then March, you get the big boys. You have Final Fantasy VII Remake out that first week. Watch Dogs Legion's out 3 days after. Then Animal Crossing and Doom on the 20th. You have Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 coming out sometime that month. And then it doesn't even stop. In April, you have Cyberpunk 2077, and then May, you have Avengers. So Doom is smack dab in the middle of one of the busiest springs we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I mean, they're all different games. They're all different genres of games and different audiences. So I don't have an issue. I don't think Doom will have a problem.
Yeah, do we think it's going to suffer at all?
It's going to suffer because people aren't rich.
Yeah, because its original November release date, it was only really competing with Pokemon and Star Wars.
Yep.
Still big games, but Doom's big as well. It's one of the biggest names in gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it's going to have a tough time. There are too many games, not even close to it, stuff that's within the month of it. It's just so hard. There's too many other games that are coming out around the same time. It's going to be hard to divert time to it. I mean, we've got several really big RPGs coming out. Gods and Monsters, which I actually am weirdly excited about. But anyway, and that and Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I'm sure is going to take a long time, even though it's supposedly only the first portion. And then there's other games that are just going to be stealing attention away from it, which just really sucks because I mean, Doom is great, and it was slated for such a perfect time where
I was waiting for it. I was like, great, it's coming out this time. I'm going to sit here and do nothing but play this game.
Yeah.
But now look at it. The Last of Us Part 2 comes out in February. February is not a long month. No. February is only 29 days next year. It's a leap year. So Last of Us Part 2, that's going to take people a couple weeks. And then Final Fantasy.
You think it's going to be that long?
Yeah, I think so.
I think 2 weeks tops.
I mean, if they're burning through it, I'm not going to burn through it.
I think that game's going to be 10 hours long.
You think? Yeah,
that's how long Naughty Dog's games typically. Well, this is going to be their biggest one. I say max 20 hours.
So we got that. We've got Final Fantasy Remake coming out and Watch Dogs Legion. Now, both of them are PlayStation games. So it's going to depend.
Everything.
That's Final Fantasy. Yeah, but Final Fantasy is only for PlayStation. So it's what I'm thinking about. It's going to be up to the people on the platforms. Like The Last of Us. If I only got $200 to buy games for the next couple of months, and I'm buying Last of Us Part 2 and Final Fantasy Remake, well, I blew through half my money right there. Now the question is, am I going to buy Watch Dogs Legion, or am I going to save that for Doom?
If Watch Dogs Legion reviews really well, which I think it's going to end up doing really well because it's trying a lot of really cool ideas, that might be a little upsetting for Doom. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a battle of the wallet.
Even if you're on Xbox, why get Doom when you can save up and 4 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, get one of the most highly anticipated games of all time, Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah, it's a battle of the wallet, and it's going to be interesting.
It's not just that Doom is releasing in a very busy spring. It's releasing literally right in the middle of two of the most highly anticipated games of all time, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Cyberpunk.
Yep. Yeah. That's the problem. And again, like you said, Watch Dogs Legion has a lot of stuff, has a lot of cool stuff going for it. So, yeah, that was not a good time to put this game. I don't know if they looked at the schedule, oh, this is great, we'll put it right here.
I think they think they're fine because they're Doom, which, I mean, they are. It's still going to sell millions. I think if Stadia does really well, then they'll pick that up. But then again, Watch Dogs is coming out on Stadia 2 weeks before, and that's a big Stadia game as well. I don't know. It'll be. I'm really interested to see how this game's going to perform.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
It's definitely going to experience some kind of
Yeah.
struggle, because it's definitely not going to be as good as it would have been if it were coming out at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, it's not going to bomb in the spring though.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no way. It's just not. Probably will not sell
As many
as
copies.
much. Yeah, as it would have if it stayed in 2019.
Which is unfortunate, but like they're gonna have a better product and it's still gonna sell millions. So I think it's a win-win. It's totally fine. I'll wait for Doom.
Oh yeah. My pre-order isn't going anywhere. I
Right.
want it. Yeah, I want it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the people who want it, they're gonna get it. I mean, the fans are always gonna be there, and if they have to wait, if you saw the Twitter feed after they made their announcement, everybody was pouring out love.
Yeah.
Everyone usually does when they get an announcement like this, for the most part. But the people who are gonna get Doom are gonna get Doom. I just think they're losing a lot of chance for people who may not necessarily be fans of Doom, but did play the first one and are interested. I feel like those kind of people, they're gonna lose a lot of those, which in the end is important. So we'll see.
All right, so let's move on to our next big topic here is the PlayStation 5. We already knew some information regarding the PlayStation 5 earlier this year when Mark Cerny started talking about it. Well, now we have a lot more information regarding the upcoming PlayStation 5, including a release window, which will be holiday season of 2020, which puts it right along the new Xbox, which is coming out at the same time. However, they also gave us some more information regarding what we can expect with this new console. Let's talk about the new DualShock 5 controller, because that one's going to have better speakers. And I'll be honest, I really never care about that function on the DualShock 4.
Wait, is it called the DualShock 5 officially?
Yeah, it's called DualShock 5.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, they kept the naming convention of everything. PlayStation 5.
We assumed they would, but
DualShock
it hadn't
5,
been confirmed until this Wired article.
Yeah.
And
Which
they
is still
said
weird that
they
they're
said
doing
it's
articles.
so it's got I gotta bring up the article. The name they're calling these triggers. What
I
exactly?
want to talk about these triggers. I have very strong opinions about these
Yeah,
triggers.
go ahead.
Okay.
The adaptive triggers. Yeah.
Can we talk about these adaptive triggers for a second? Because man, the DualShock 4 triggers are garbage. It's one of the only reasons I like playing shooters on Xbox One, because their Xbox One triggers have their own little vibration motors, which makes shooting guns feel all the better. Then I go back and play Destiny on PS4 and it doesn't feel as good. We're getting that stuff on DualShock 5, which finally, because that's one of the only reasons I love the Xbox One controller. I think it's one of the greatest controllers ever made. But man, that trigger rumble is something else, and I'm surprised the DualShock 4 didn't have it, because it makes such a difference. Even playing something like Forza, it feels good to pull that trigger. And now they're saying oh man, if you pull a bowstring, you'll feel tension. That's awesome. I love those kind of things. I think gimmicks that actually help the control.
Yeah. So what it sounds like is these will have their own individual motors in there, which will provide some kind of feedback, which basically means it's going beyond what the Xbox One controllers have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use that bowstring example. As you pull down the trigger, you'll feel more and more resistance.
Yep, and he also talked about when he was playing Gran Turismo Sport, when you went over gravel on the road, he actually felt it in the trigger, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and the rumble's using haptic feedback now instead of just a regular motor now, right?
Yeah, it's doing what the Xbox or the Xbox One Elite does.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a finally moment, because, they've always been behind in terms of triggers. I don't really understand why. The 360 had these really nice triggers, and then they even made it better with the Xbox One, and the PS3 and PS4. They just had just kind of
the DualShock
they had buttons. They
singular
worked.
motion.
The DualShock 4, the DualShock were basically it works. We're not going to do anything. You got to remember when Microsoft started talking about the Xbox 360, they were we're doing all this research and development for this. And then when the Xbox One was coming out, they're we're going to give you the best controller possible.
And then a great controller, I think. All-time great.
It is.
Controller.
And then he went out and did the Elite. Yeah, we're going to do it again to give you the Elite. And Sony's that's nice. That's nice. We're not doing anything. Remember the DualShock 6 axis?
6-axis, yeah.
Oh my God, that was the worst DualShock controller.
Oh, it's so bad. They feel like they're so light. There's nothing in them.
There's nothing in them. Nothing.
They're so small too.
So I'm glad that Sony is finally stepping up their game. If anything, Xbox has always went up them when it comes to controller game. So this is going to be interesting. They talked about the solid state drive, which is also something the new Xbox is going to have, which is great. I'm glad to see that both Microsoft and Sony realize that mechanical hard drives simply are not the way to go. PC gamers have been phasing out mechanical hard drives for years, and now that solid state drives have becoming less expensive, you can get a gigabyte for about $100, 2 gigabytes for about $200. So they're basically $1 per gig. That That's good news. That is really good. As I messed up my app for a second. I think it's 10 cents per gig because they're 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes. 2 terabytes like $200. Yeah, it's about 10 cents per gig now. Which is going to basically help with transitions, with loading, with streaming the game off the hard drive to the console. That's going to mean less time for us to be sitting and waiting, which also means that, before you wait for a game to load, you can run in the kitchen, make yourself a sandwich, and come back and the game's still loading. That's going to be a thing of past.
Yeah. Because I recently got an SSD in my computer, and I'm like, okay, my game's loading. I'm going to go grab a drink.
Nope.
And it's loaded before I get out the door of my bedroom. Like, what?
There are some games on the PC where they have loading screens, and they have stuff at the bottom of the screen for you to read, and it goes, all right, loading. All right, read. Nope, load it.
I wonder if loading tips are going to be not a thing next gen.
Probably.
Because of that.
Yeah.
It probably will be.
I wonder if launch titles will have them, but then as we get further and further into the gen, they'll just go away.
Mm-hmm. A lot of games have the thing now where you have to hit continue, where you can get out of the loading screen, which I've noticed a lot, so that you can actually continue going through tips if you really want to. Not that anyone really would, but they actually make it so that you have to actually press something to continue the loading screen, which is kind of cool. So, I mean, they might stick around. Honestly, probably not. But if it gets good enough to the point where it doesn't matter, then yeah.
I don't think they matter because the only reason they were there in the first place is to give you something to read or something to do while the game loaded.
Some games put lore there though, so I don't want them to go away entirely.
Remember the Ridge Racer games? They had mini games for you to sit there and play while you were waiting for stuff to load.
Yeah,
I missed those days.
Well, it's because Bandai Namco has a patent on those, right? And nobody else can use them.
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's true actually.
Yeah.
There's also a couple more things they talked about. It will have ray tracing. We already speculated that all consoles were going to have ray tracing because the consoles having ray tracing enabled means developers will start putting more ray tracing features, and then this will blow up better on the PC, which right now is the pioneer for ray tracing games. But I expect to see more developers utilizing this as long as it doesn't kill performance.
Yeah, it'll be standard the second these consoles launch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they also talked about, well, they didn't really address it in here, but it's been talked about that the PlayStation 5 will have a feature that will allow you to install the portion of the game that you need so you can get into the game faster.
Okay, now, this again, though, because we had it with the PS4, and it was supported at launch, but then they stopped doing it, and even then it never really worked, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we really getting excited for this?
Doesn't the Xbox also do that? I could have swore they did.
There are a select handful of games. It was more so a PS4 feature, but Naughty Dog games let you do it. It's do you want to install the single player or the multiplayer first? And it's they're really both big downloads anyway. Just let me do the whole game.
Yeah, I never really understood this feature because a lot of the time it would be so mix and match. Sometimes it just wouldn't work. The Call of Duty games were maybe the very few that it does work, where you can start with the campaign and then the multiplayer would download in the background. But so many other games, they'll literally just be okay, you've downloaded a portion. Now you can start playing now, and the rest will download as you play. But then as soon as you get into the game, it says, oh, it needs to download the textures, so you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, because a lot of games use textures from the campaign and things like that for multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yep.
It wouldn't work if you were to do GTA multiplayer only, because that entire city is in single player, and that's where it comes from.
Exactly.
And I think all the games where people only want to play multiplayer and they would just only install the multiplayer and not the campaign, those franchises have gone multiplayer only anyway, which is something that happened this gen that nobody could have really foreseen. Stuff like Rainbow Six being only multiplayer and still $60, or Star Wars Battlefront, even though 2 has a campaign. Stuff like that, next gen, Black Ops 4 ditched the campaign, even though it's back from Modern Warfare. I feel if you want a multiplayer game, the games aren't putting these afterthought campaigns anymore. That feels like a relic of last generation.
Yeah, I agree with that one. All right, so that news is out there. I wanted more information, but I guess Sony will give it to us probably beginning of next year.
They'll have an event.
I think they felt they gave us enough information to tide us over because it was April and now. So either end of this year, which there's no big events happening. So definitely next year. Probably.
Do you think PSX is coming back this year?
It has to come back.
This year though. Don't they normally sell tickets by now though? Aren't tickets? Don't they go on sale in the end of the summer? So I don't know about this year.
No, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but it definitely will be back next year. They might move it up.
Yeah, I thought they mentioned that they weren't doing PSX this year. Just straight up.
Oh, I don't remember seeing any news about that.
But
do we
because
see them back at E3 next year though?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They have to come back. As much as the organization that runs E3, I can't think of their name right now, has screwed up big time. Sony's going to be there. Microsoft is going to be there. There's no doubting it. So yeah, it'll be at E3. E3 is still the biggest North American conference or exhibition, or whatever you want to call it, regardless of how bad they screwed up.
They're going to do a state of play in June though, because they announced this PS5 officially through a Wired.com article, and it lit the internet on fire. They could do whatever they want. They don't have to be at E3.
I think they have to be at E3 if they want to show off the hardware, like get people hands on. Because make no mistake, Microsoft will be there. They will definitely be there.
They could do their own event though. I don't know. I think E3's in a really interesting spot, so it'll be interesting to see how this all goes.
I think it'd be interesting if they did not go, but it would just be so
I want them to go.
Unbelievable for them not to go, because it's just like,
well, if you look at it this way,
console coming out next year,
right? Like, they have to be there. They have to be there.
Not have hands on at all.
What are you going to do? Have it at PAX West or PAX East? Those aren't typically the things you go and announce.
Their own PSX event or like rebrand it as something else, like the PlayStation 5
event. Pay
event.
Extra money to get there, like because E3 is like, now that they're inviting consumers to come in, just random fans and stuff, like
one extra event.
Are they going to be excluded from the PlayStation event because it's going to be media only? Like it's just
they can do plus, like EA has EA Play, and I feel like it's might be a little smarter for them because like the people who are willing to go to like a specific event are going to be fans, and they're going to get more positive like impressions. Like thinking from a purely marketing standpoint, I feel like that's why a lot of like EA Play like they have their own event now. That's why that's happening.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I can't wait to see how this goes.
Yeah.
All right, so since we're talking about the PlayStation 5 is going to bring us higher definition graphics and all that cool stuff. And something that's been causing a lot of frustration, I guess that's the word I can use right now, regarding file sizes, that Call of Duty Modern Warfare is 150 gigs?
175 on
175.
PC, compared to the console version, which is like sub 100, I think.
And Red Dead Redemption is coming in at 150 gigs.
Which is on par with the digital console download, I believe.
Which has a lot of people up in arms saying, what the hell? This is a lot of space. I don't have enough space. Why are games getting that big? And I actually got into a conversation with somebody about this. And I wanted to go ahead and basically, I don't want to say drop some knowledge, but make people more informed as to what exactly is happening here. And then we can talk about storage and how it's a big deal. So, as many people know, when a game is ready to go out the door, they use compression techniques to get the game as small as possible so it can fit onto physical media and or digital distribution. Because the smaller it is, the easier it is to ship, the easier it is to send across the internet. But the problem with that is developers don't think about compression at all when they're working on a game. Multiple developers have talked about this, is that the compression is the very last thing they think about, if they even consider it. They're not worried about that. They're worried about working on the assets, the sound, and getting the game out the door. And one of the things that people really don't understand is the fact that even though graphical assets are big, like 1080p assets are anywhere from 5 to 6 megs, you've got 4K, which can be anywhere from 60 megs and up. And you're talking about games that have hundreds or thousands of textures. But you've got sound. Lossless sound is extremely large. And you cannot compress that stuff. You can, but it doesn't take up a lot. It takes up a lot of room. You can compress it to an extent. It's not text data. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can't really compress those. Now, you can change them to a different format. For example, WAV is a lossless format. But if you record like 60 seconds of a WAV file, it can be anywhere from 5 to 600 megs. You could compress that, or you can export that to an MP3, which uses a third of the size, but an MP3 does not have the same quality as a WAV file. But those are some of the tricks that developers do. They will move it down to a different format, or with video, they compress it to an extent. Because when you're playing a game and that game is compressed, have you guys ever installed a game on Steam and it says waiting to unpack?
Yeah.
That was Destiny 2 for me.
It's uncompressing everything that it can. But there are still games that have the audio compressed. So while you're playing the game, it's uncompressing all that stuff. And that is an issue for a CPU. Even high-end CPUs, when you're uncompressing data on the fly, it puts a lot of stress on the CPU, which is why a lot of developers simply don't like doing that. They'll compress it to an extent, but that's it. So say a game uncompressed is like 5 gigs, and they compress it down to like 4.8 because they don't want to compress the audio. They'll compress the textures, and they'll compress everything else, but they typically don't want to touch the audio for that particular reason. Or again, they change the audio to a different container. So a wave to an MP3 or an OGG. But then again, you don't want to go so far because then you start losing clarity. You start, the bit rates go down, and then it just sounds like crap. So it's interesting that this stuff isn't common knowledge because it should be. And the fact that people are getting mad at developers saying you guys should make these games smaller, it's like they can't.
Assuming people know anything about game development is already a mistake because the amount of armchair developers that I've seen on the internet is way too high.
It's like you want these games to look good. You want these games to have all this content, and that comes at a cost. That hard drive in your machine is going to get smashed.
Plus, I think it's just the PC versions of these games that have like really high file sizes. Because, like I said earlier, like Modern Warfare on consoles is much smaller.
Oh yeah,
because they need to fit it on that Blu-ray disc. Otherwise, it's not. Because PC physical media is not a thing. They don't have to like aim for the Blu-ray on PC because it's not a thing. It's like on Xbox One and PS4, you need to fit on that disc, or you're pretty much like they're not going to do a digital only Call of Duty. Like it has to be on that disc so it can be on the shelf at GameStop. That's how these things work.
Agree, 100% agree. And you also got to remember when PCs get games, their assets are usually a lot bigger, and they know this. They're like, hey, they're going to be rocking, an RTX or a GTX, and they have the power. I mean, as much as you guys like to say the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are great machines, and they are.
They're good enough machines. PCs are where the real enthusiasts are, I feel. Because like you can get like true 4K textures, really high resolutions, crazy high frame rates, things like that. And that's why they take up a lot more space in the download. And plus you have like all these, I feel like languages take up a super large portion of game downloads that people don't really think about. That's why I've seen a lot of console games, like if you want to play in a certain foreign language, it's an add-on content download. Like extra language packs or things like that, or it lets you choose what language to install because as Keith was saying, sound is a very, very, very resource-intensive thing. Like, it takes up a lot of space.
Oh, yeah.
And all these games ship with, like, worldwide localization support with, like, upwards of 30 different languages on the disc. That's a lot of space.
Yeah. And think about it. If you're talking about a game that has fully voiced overs, imagine how much space that game takes up.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so much, even, like, open-world games, like, let's say Cyberpunk, there's going to be so much incidental dialogue, like, conversations happening in the background between non-important NPCs.
Oh my god!
Like you don't even realize how much sound and like time that takes up. Like there are so many conversations that you won't even hear in the time in your game.
Wait till Cyberpunk comes out.
Oh man, that game! I can see that crossing 200 gigs.
Oh, I'm already saying it's 200. I'd probably say 250.
Is it 2 Blu-ray discs confirmed for consoles yet?
I don't know. No,
they haven't said anything. If Last of Us Part 2 was on 2 discs, Cyberpunk is on 2 discs.
Probably.
Yeah. And think about that on disc. So how much are they sacrificing? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the PC version. And for my fellow PC gamers out there, I mean, guys, we're at the point where hard drive sizes have dropped in price. Again, as I was talking earlier, you can get a 1 terabyte solid state drive for $100. You can get a 2 terabyte drive for $200. That is a far cry from when they first came out, and 2 terabytes was like $500.
Yeah, it was crazy. But even then, like you can get an SSD for your main games, and then get like a really, really big hard drive, which are a lot cheaper now for like everything else. If you want like to have all your Steam games installed, you can get like an 8 terabyte hard drive for like you can get that for a reasonable price now.
And it's going to be interesting again because this falls into also another conversation we had in the past, which is data caps. Me, for example, I have files. I don't have any data caps, so I can either go, I'm going to install this game, but I'm going to take off all these games and download them again later when I want to play them, or I can buy a bigger hard drive. And let's be honest, guys, if you have no data cap and there are games on your hard drive that you have literally not touched in years, you should uninstall them. They're just wasting your space. Get rid of them.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, but data caps are such a huge problem here in the States, especially because our internet infrastructure here is not ideal. But like, I'm grateful I don't have a data cap either. But like, some people do, and like the horror stories I've heard of, like when the Division 2 dropped and you got it physically, even if you did get a disc, there was still like a 40 gigabyte patch. People were like, well, I guess I can't play the Division 2 until like April because my March data cap is already pretty much full.
And then there's some games that came out that you downloaded and then, well, you bought it on disc and then they did a full download after you put it in disc. One game did that recently. What was that?
I think it was the Division did that for me because like I had the Gold Edition Steelbook pre-ordered because I wanted the Steelbook and I wanted the disc, but then I saw if you buy the disc, it has a 40 gigabyte mandatory download before you can even play. So I just did a digital to preload.
It's just
I think ridiculous. I told the story on the show.
Yeah, the file sizes aren't going away. I hate to say get used to it, but get used to it. They're not
and
going
on consoles,
anywhere.
Expect to see data discs become more commonplace, like Red Dead having a second disc and The Last of Us having a second disc.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unless they expand to like a bigger Blu-ray size, but like expect to see 2 discs. Kind of like how Switch games, like they don't splurge on the bigger cartridges. They just get like a 16 gig and then like download the rest.
Yeah.
Or like
You
some
think
games
ju-
like Overwatch not even having a cartridge.
You
like
think
stuff
just
like
2
that.
discs? You think we might not move into the 3 disc
I
territory?
think towards the end of next gen we will see a triple disc game. Well, we've seen those before, like Final Fantasy 13 on Xbox 360, but that's because that wasn't Bluray. But expect to see 3 Blu-rays.
There
I
was
hope we
a
go back
there
to
was an
the-
Xbox 360 game that was 3 discs, wasn't it? What was it? I
Final
had
Fantasy
it.
13 is 3 discs.
It was, yeah.
Not
was
just
fun.
that, it was what is that? God.
Probably an RPG.
It was an RPG for Xbox 360. It was one of the bigger ones. Hang on.
I just hope we don't
Blue
end
Dragon
up in
had
the...
multiple. I think that was a 3 disc. I know Assassin's Creed 3 had 2 discs. Borderlands Game of the Year had all the DLC on separate. A lot of 360 games had 2.
2 discs?
It had 2. A lot of like late gen 360 games had double discs because they were still on DVDs.
It was an RPG.
No, I don't think
Blue Dragon has 3
was.
discs. I see it.
I don't
It
remember.
wasn't Blue Dragon. What was it? Lost Odyssey.
Lost
was
Odyssey?
that 3 discs?
I think that was just 2. But I'm
Yeah.
looking at lists of like multiple disc 360 games. Assassin's Creed 3 is 2. Blue Dragon is 3. Castlevania Lords of Shadow is 2.
Lord of
Oblivion-
Shadows was 2?
Yep. Oblivion Game of the Year was 3 because he had all the DLC. Pretty much every Bethesda game that was DLC had DLC was a 2 disc. GTA 5 is 2 discs. Halo 4 was 2 discs. LA Noire was 3. Complete Edition is 4. Rage had 3 discs.
Oh
They
no, I'm
weren't on
sorry.
Blu-ray.
Lost Odyssey was not 3 discs. I was
It was
mistaken.
2.
It was 4.
4.
4.
Yo, shoutouts to Final Fantasy VIII when that first came out on the PS1. That was also 4 discs.
Because I had that game and I'm looking around in my office. I'm trying to find it. I have it.
Such a rare breed.
I think like there's a joke in Metal Gear Solid 4. Spoilers for MGS4. When you go back to Shadow Moses in like chapter 4, and you reach the point from like the original game where you would swap disc, Otacon calls you. He's like, Snake, swap your disc. Oh wait, you're on a Blu-ray. You don't have to. I think it's funny that they were making fun of, hey, we're past that, and now we've come full circle to where we have games on multiple discs again, even though it's a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. I found it. It was on the game shelf buried.
Are there 4 discs in there?
There are 4 discs in here.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, Lost Odyssey was 4 discs.
Wow.
That's insane.
I have that game on Steam. It's not even that big of a download, but 4 discs. Wow.
Yeah, so get ready for those 200 gig games. They're coming, guys. They are coming, and you will enjoy them. You just won't like them if you have to download them. Yikes.
Be patient.
I think I'd
Go
rather
grab a
download them though,
coffee.
because you can just preload them. Because if I get the disc, I have to install the data disc before I can play. And like
Yeah.
Red Dead 2, that took like 3 hours. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be interesting when it comes out for PC. How long does it take to download this game and
Well,
install this
hopefully you
game?
can just preload it and have everything ready to go. It's still gonna have to do some installation and unpacking whenever it launches. But like,
I
it
really
won't
hope
be as
we
much
can.
as like, because I got that game at midnight at GameStop on my PS4. My friend preloaded it digitally, and he was like out of the first chapter before I could start playing. It was almost comical how long that took.
Okay, wow. All right, guys. Wow, are we really at the end already? Holy crap. So, as you guys and gals have probably been paying attention, there's been a lot of interesting things happening with China and Blizzard and the game industry. So, we're going to expand this a little bit. We're going to talk about censorship and what exactly is going on here. Do we really want to touch on the entire story or condense what's
I
happening?
think for listeners, we should give an overview of what has happened. And I'm not like fully up to date on the story, but like my understanding is that a pro Hearthstone player, Blitzchung, right? That's his like tag.
Yep.
Yes.
He won a tournament, but then he said some stuff about the Hong Kong situation. He just said free Hong Kong, and then Blizzard took away his winning payout and they banned him from the Hearthstone scene, right?
For
For
an
a year.
entire year.
Wow, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's what happened with that, and of course the internet is not happy with that because, man, that's a bad look for Blizzard.
Yeah.
And they issued a statement, but it was like almost a non-statement. They issued it Friday like evening when no one's looking at news. And they really didn't do anything about it. They just gave him his money back and unbanned him, which is not.
They didn't even
That was
unban
not
him.
the issue.
Yeah,
they
they
didn't
didn't
unban
unban
him.
him.
Thing. He's
He's
only
only
still
gave him his
banned, but
winnings?
only for 6 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So they shortened the
So-
time and they gave him his winnings, which is
But they only did that after everybody was like, you know what,
Yeah.
we're done. We're boycotting you. People
Yeah.
were deleting their accounts off of Battle.net. The negative press, people speaking out. And at that point, Blizzard was like, you know what? We really need to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, it even
Yeah.
got to the point where Tim Sweeney at Epic Games jumped on board and said, if somebody did that on our platform, we would not ban them. We would not do anything. So
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Blizzard
absurdity
had
for
to do
me-
something.
The absurdity for me was the fact that they took the casters and banned them too. They got rid of their contracts. They
Yep.
reinstated them now, but they still are suspended for 6
And
months.
there was a collegiate Hearthstone team, right, that held up a free Hong Kong sign after their game, and like they got banned, but then like Blizzard reinstated them too or something like that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people like supporting this guy after this news broke out. But the problem with this story is like, yeah, it's getting a lot of traction, but I feel like a lot of people are kind of tuning it out and zoning it out because it's politics. It's not video games. Like, this is video games, guys.
This is video games.
But like, I saw more outrage earlier whenever Mortal Kombat 11 released, and like the women in that game had like actual outfits on. Like, that people cry that's censorship. People cry that like games with really, really young looking anime girls not getting released in the States, they think that's censorship. That's not censorship. This is censorship, and people should be upset about this. And I'm worried that people aren't getting mad about this because they definitely should be. And there are people out there who like are informed, are knowledgeable, and definitely are doing their part. And like, but like, gamers cry censorship for a lot of things that aren't censorship. But this is.
This is definitely censorship. And the problem that I'm having with all this is, again, I talked about this years ago. People saying, you know, these Chinese companies, Tencent mainly, are getting more involved in the game industry. They're getting their hands in things because they make a boatload of money, and people come to them, or they approach other people and say, hey, we can help support you. Just come on board with us. And Activision Blizzard actually took Tencent's money, and they have some stock in the company. They don't have a lot. I think it's like less than 5%. But what we're seeing now is the fact that Blizzard also has a foothold in China because of mobile gaming and their whole gaming scene. And they don't want to upset the Chinese gamers. They don't want to upset the Chinese government because, as you've seen, the Chinese government does not play around. They will kick you out. They will tear up your contract. They will blacklist you completely. And because they have some stock in Activision Blizzard, and even though Blizzard is saying this is not what happened, that's completely bullshit. I'm sorry. We're seeing what's happening now. They pretty much said, you need to stop this. I mean, what reason would Blizzard need to stop the person from getting their money and banning them? For what reason? Because they spoke out for a good cause? Really? What did Blizzard have to do with that? I mean, there was nothing.
And it's not even like, it's not something you even see in like, I guess, quote unquote, conventional sports too. Cause like people like after like UFC fights will like, speak out about their country, any kind of issues or whatever, they might get a slap on the wrist and stuff. But like, there have never been like outright year-long bans just because somebody hopped on the mic for just a few seconds just to make their statement after they won or lost a fight or whatever. It just kind of, there's like a clear difference in that they're not only in the industry itself, like consumers think there's like this weird stigma of no politics in games. I don't want politics in games. Games aren't political at all. There's no political statements involved in my video gaming. Like, it's just like, that's not how it is. Like, politics are universal.
Political. Yeah, like, everything's political if you think about it.
It's just insane. Like,
and I think that it goes like, there's still that stigma around video games that like they're not legitimate still. We're still going through that, even though like games have come a long way. I feel like these gaming companies, they're like, just ban them. These gamers don't care. And like, let's keep it real here. The general video game audience has no idea this is happening. It's just us, the hardcore enthusiasts who actually follow games press and things like that. And I still think gaming has a long way to go in terms of, because it's a bad look if somebody like, if this situation were to happen like after like an Oscar acceptance speech and like, or something like that, or like another sport, like you said, UFC, Rob, like that wouldn't fly. It's just because video games are still in this weird spot where they make a lot of money, but like they're still kind of seen almost as toys, like we haven't really fully gotten past that yet, even though we've come a long way.
And I think this is like that kind of the first moment where things are going to, change should happen after this point. I kind of feel like, because it's like the first people who are going to notice this are going to be the hardcore enthusiasts of Hearthstone, like the people who go to tournaments, the people who actively play and buy cards just because they want to be up on the meta and they want to win. Like those are the first people who are going to notice this. But then it's going to slowly kind of pan out to people who may not be the biggest fan of Hearthstone, but they'll hear about this and like they'll be, relatively politically active or at least informed, and they'll see this and they'll be like, this is messed up. We should be doing something about it. Like, it's going to get more people to the point, because this isn't just an issue for the competitive community. Like, this is gaming overall. Like, people are beginning to understand that now. And I think if and when another incident like this happens, there's going to be more people who care about it, and there's going to be more things done about it. And I think even companies too will probably, act faster than Blizzard did, which was several days after the ban, where they actually decided, okay, maybe not a year, but we're still going to ban him. Like,
yeah, like this isn't like the first time this has happened. It's because like China has a huge portion of the video game industry that like people don't really like to think about, because it's not like Japan or here like in the Western market. Like it's its own thing, and they have their own games. But like I think Hearthstone being such a global phenomenon and like having this global competitive scene is why this is like seeped out, because like the Chinese government censors video games all the time. Like the Chinese version of PUBG is ridiculous. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
Like when you kill somebody, they give you a loot box and wave goodbye.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier this year on one of the articles. Yeah, they summed it down. But before we get
like,
any further,
they put like propaganda in the games and stuff. Like they always do this.
And before you mentioned, if they did this in another sport. Well, they actually did do this in another sport. There was some statements mentioned by the Houston Rockets. Daryl Morey made a tweet about supporting the Hong Kong protests, and the moment he did that, China got really pissy, and there were a lot of moving parts in what exactly happened. But there were a couple brands, Chinese brands, that blacklisted the NBA. Tencent, which we all know by now, announced that they were going to suspend business with the Houston Rockets. A majority of the NBA games that were supposed to be broadcasted in China were no longer being broadcasted in China. It's a lot of crap going on. There were people in the NBA who have contracts with China, with Chinese companies. They're now suspending their contracts. NBA players are not allowed to talk about this. The Brooklyn Nets is actually owned by a Chinese owner. He's not too thrilled about that either. So it's not just gaming. This is everywhere. It's just interesting. This all happened around the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's just because like the stuff in Hong Kong has reached such a tipping point, and like it's really being thrust into the public eye, especially recently. So like with the tension so high at this moment, of course, like the Chinese government and everybody involved that's pro-China is going to do everything they can, because that government is very, very pro-censorship. Of course, they're going to try to censor.
Yeah,
it's a weird time.
They censor everything. They censor everything.
Yeah,
your tweets, what you can do, what you can watch, what you can play. It's like I would not want to live in China.
Yeah, it can be kind of awkward too, especially for a lot of people. Consumers of video games just in general are usually based either in North America or in Europe, where you have, for the most part, freedom of press, like freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want, like within certain confines. Clearly, here they they shred the line a little bit, but like. It's different to kind of, see that now from an outside perspective, because we're not used to having certain sites blocked that we can't access on the internet just because, it goes against our home government's, ethical or moral code or whatever. It's insane to think about, but it's important to talk about because people don't realize there's a completely different life that other people live that we don't have to deal with, issues that they have that we don't.
Yeah. This is just like one of the, it's bound to happen when you have like governments that like try to control the message of everything, like in China especially, that tries to like censor and have their message pro and everything, like all their media. But then you have like global markets like video games and film and TV, and when those clash, it's like always really interesting to see how the reaction is. Yeah,
it's definitely interesting, and now that we're seeing the effects in gaming, I wonder what's going to happen in the upcoming days, upcoming months, or years. Are we going to see more publishers that want to deal with China, or are we going to see escalations of more incidents like this? I mean, this is not the end. This is far from the end.
Beginning, I think. Like it's. Yeah. I feel like now that we have. Is this like the first major kind of thing that's happened in a video game? Like an outright ban for this? Yeah, this is like a significant moment. It's definitely gonna. Now that people know about these things more so than before, like it's gonna. This is not the last time we're gonna see something like this.
No, it's definitely not, and that's why I don't want to say I'm fearful, but it's just
because the Chinese market for video games is ginormous. It's just operating in the background because so many of their games are China-specific versions of our games,
Yeah, China doesn't really like...
It's not like the Japanese gaming market where, like, even though they're their own thing, like, the Japanese and Western and even European gaming markets, we all have our overlap, Like, we support devs from everywhere and we do this thing. But China, like, the games are made in China and they are played in China. That's how that works.
Yep.
So it's really weird, like, to get a glimpse into that.
They want their own Chinese streaming service. They don't want your stuff over here.
They have own versions of PUBG, own versions of COD. There was a free-to-play Titanfall over there. Yep. It's really weird, like how the Chinese video game market operates.
It's probably the biggest one in the world.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah, they make a ton of money in China because like all of their games are designed around like the free-to-play microtransaction kind of model, and that model makes a ton of money. Like I think it's very rare to have to pay full price for a video game in China unless you're buying like a Western AAA video game, It's like all their games are like, like their mobile games are free, their PC games are free to play, but they monetize with all these ridiculous.
Oh, they monetize the stuff the hell and back. Like everything in their game is
like,
completely monetized.
If you think it's bad here, it's ridiculous over there.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like
And,
even
like-
stuff like playtime is limited.
Yeah, and there's not like regulation on it at all. Not that there's much here, but like there's way less over there. Like
Yeah, and if there is regulation, it's because it's not sending a pro-government message or
Yeah.
things like that, or it's too violent, and they regulate it and make the kills in PUBG wave at you,
Yeah.
which is hilarious to me.
They
Still,
did some changes and stuff. I remember back when I played World of Warcraft, they changed a bunch of stuff. Like there was one character NPC boss patches where he had a big gaping hole in his chest with teeth, and in China they completely removed that.
yeah, and there was a conversation earlier this year with Rainbow Six Siege because they were going to launch in China. And they were like,
that
we're
pissed
gonna
off some people so bad.
Yeah, we're gonna remove skull imagery. Like, there's a character named Caveira in Siege who has like a face mask on or face paint, and it's a skull. And we're like, what are we gonna do with her? We don't know. We can't remove it as part of her character. And luckily, Ubisoft went back on it. We're like, we're just gonna make a specific Chinese version of Rainbow Six Siege, like so many developers do. But man, China is starting to, as so many of our games start to become like these online things, and like they're not just one and done single player kind of things. We're gonna have to deal with like games that we know expanding into China and like the reparations of that and like the repercussions, because everything we do here doesn't necessarily fly in there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I don't like getting into politics, but yeah, that's never going to change. That it's been like that for hundreds of years. It's never going to change.
Yeah. No, I'll say
They
that
like
most,
to oppress their people. They love to oppress them.
and most gamers probably don't want to get into politics with their video games either, but it's just a thing, and it's always
it
going
happens.
to be pervasive throughout any video game that you play, whether you're playing, Mario, which is a bad example, to like The Last of Us, which is, it may not be inherently political. It's an apocalypse story, but there's clearly like
There are
elements
political
of
themes
politics.
in that. Like,
yeah,
and pretty much
exactly.
every game with a narrative, and even games without narratives, there are political themes. And like people who want apolitical video games or apolitical games press is like, you're not gonna find it. Like it just doesn't exist.
Mm-mm. All right, folks. Yeah, that was damn frustrating. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Actually, on a lighter note, there's a game I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about what we were talking about, the games we've been playing, at the beginning of the show, and I'd like to bring it up right now if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I lied when I said I'd only been streaming and playing Trails, because I've been playing a VR game that came out yesterday, or not yesterday, Thursday, called Asgard's Wrath. Okay. Whenever we talked about Oculus Connect a few weeks ago, I mentioned this is one of the big AAA exclusives Oculus has been working on. The other big one is Stormland, which is out next month by Insomniac. So that's the one I was looking forward to. I knew about Asgard's Wrath, but I was really like made by Sanzaru, who have done some subpar VR stuff, I think, and they made like a Sly Cooper game. They made Thieves in Time, which is okay, but like they're not like a developer I really, really enjoy, like Insomniac. So I was like, I'm not going to buy Asgard's Wrath. I'm going to wait for Stormland, and I'm going to play that because Insomniac Games is incredibly talented. But then the reviews poured in for Asgard's Wrath. Like, Upload VR gave it 100 out of 100, a perfect score. And that's VR enthusiasts giving it a good score. But then I saw IGN's review, and IGN gave it a 9.4, which doesn't happen with VR games. So you have enthusiast press calling this game fantastic, and you have non-VR gamers calling this game fantastic, which means this is a good game. So I bought it. It's only $40, not even full price. This game blew me away. VR is still relatively young. You got to remember this. Oculus Rift only came out in 2016, and video games take a long time to make. So Asgard's Wrath, while there have been, like Lone Echo is one, Ready at Dawn's like single player game, which is, I feel, is the first AAA VR game. This is like a real video game. This is a 30-hour action RPG with like a hub area, weapon upgrades, a shop, a semi-open world, like a decent combat system. This is a video game. I think this is the download size is what really set that apart, because like Lone Echo is like 20 gigs. Like the biggest VR games are like 20 to 30 gigs. This game is 100 plus whenever you install it.
Crap.
Wow.
This is a video game, guys. This is not a VR game. This is a video game you play in the headset. The characters are great. The voice acting is awesome. There's a story. Heath, I know you're upset about all this stuff, but I encourage you to set up your Rift S to play this game, because I'm playing it on a regular Oculus Rift, and man, putting that thing on after playing the Quest is like going back in time, because it feels ancient now, because VR has grown at such a exponential rate. But man, the graphics in this game are incredible. It's by far the best looking VR game I've ever seen. I'm playing it at medium. Like I started this game up and I was blown away by a great score, spectacular visuals, characters that I like, a combat system that I can get. Like there's it's like a skill gap like you can grow in this combat system. There are weapon upgrades. There's the attention to detail, because the hub area is like a bar. Like it's a Norse mythology game, because it's called Asgard's Wrath, right? So in Asgard there's a bar, and that's your hub area, and you can teleport back there from any time using like the main menu. And like I punched somebody in the bar to see what it would do, and they reacted to me. Like they didn't get mad or anything. It was just kind of like, hey, don't punch me, because like it's Asgard. They're all like gods and demigods, so it doesn't really hurt them. But then I punched them from the other side. Like I punched them on the right side of the face, and they reacted. And then I punched them on the left side, and there are different reactions depending on where you punch these people. Like Loki's showing you, the setup of this game is like Loki wants these like stones, and you're a new god. Like you make your player character, and you're a new god, and Loki's like, I need your help. There's this shield maiden that is going on a quest for revenge, and you can like you play as a god, but you like possess her to play as her. So like the gimmick of this game is like you play as her for most of it, and you're on the ground, but then you can hold a button to switch to your godly form, and like everything you scale up, everything gets really small. You can like pick up animals. There's a really cool bit in the beginning where you get to pick up a shark out of the ocean. I think that was really cool. There's some really cool gimmicks with scale in this, and like I'm calling them gimmicks. Like they're actually really thought out and like fleshed out mechanics. It's a really, really good game, and I haven't spent as much time as I want to. I'm only like 2 hours in. I really just left the tutorial area, and I like got into like actual combat and like exploration. There are side quests in this game. Like it's a full-on action RPG, and it's a very good action RPG. But you can play it on an Oculus Rift, and that's really cool.
Do you think this is a game that should be a VR seller? Like if you don't have a headset or whatever?
This is a historic moment, I think.
Okay.
This is like okay, everybody with an Oculus Rift should go play Lone Echo, because that game is fantastic and tells a very great story that uses a lot of VR specific things. But that's a 5 to 6 hour like experience. That's not like it's a game, but like it's hardly interactive. Like it's really just play for the story. This is the first ever AAA VR exclusive ever. There hasn't been one before this. Facebook and Oculus have funded this game. Like it's only on Rift.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they fund all their games. They're funding Stormland too, but like for all of you who are only going to buy Stormland, which is next month, we're getting our next big Oculus exclusive from Insomniac Games, which still blows my mind. Next month, we're finally getting AAA VR exclusives. Not small games like Moss, and I love Moss. Not small stuff like Astrobot or Concrete Genie. We're getting Asgard's Wrath is out now, $40. Insomniac Stormland is out next month, $40. And then we have Medal of Honor coming in 2020. We're getting real games for VR right now, and I need to emphasize that, because people think VR games are their own little niche, and they still are. But like we have games that this game would feel right at home on a PlayStation 4 if it were not for all the VR specific mechanics. This is a real video game, and anybody with a VR headset should buy this game. Anybody, even if you're on Vive, you can use Revive programs. If you have PSVR, you're out of luck, sadly, because that's locked to PlayStation. You can play on Oculus Quest 2 whenever Oculus Link launches, and you can plug in your Quest. But if you have a VR headset, buy this game. Simple as that. Play it. It's phenomenal. It's a real game. You won't get bored of it in like 2 minutes. It's not like a short little experience like Vader Immortal. This is a game.
Oh, I guess I'll have to check that out.
That's my bit on that. Keith, you should 100% play this, because I'm very curious to see what you would think about it.
All right. Well, I got to stop playing Destiny, but I definitely will check that out. Speaking of which, there's also something I wanted to touch on, because I completely forgot about it as well. So earlier this week, it was made known that Steam is working on a feature called Remote Play. So this will let you play games like co-op games or split screen games that weren't meant to be played across the internet. It's actually really intriguing. So basically what this lets you do is the feature will basically allow you to host a game on your machine, and then it would relay the information to whoever else is playing with you. So say I was hosting it and then you wanted to play with me, it would do whatever it does in the background, and it would relay all the information to your machine, using your machine relay it back to my machine. So it tricks the game into thinking we're both sitting in front of the computer screen or the TV screen.
If you have a PS4, this is share play pretty much. It's the same concept.
This has been a feature that's been available for PC for years using Parsec.
Yeah, which is going to be natively built into Steam now, though, right?
Yeah. Yep. Natively built in Steam, which is why I'm excited for that, because Parsec, you had to install it and you had to configure it. This will be all done by Steam. There's a downside, obviously. They haven't released the specifications, but I'm going to imagine if you're sending data back and forth, you need to have a decent connection.
It's probably wired, you know.
And there's likely going to be some kind of machine requirement as well, since you're only acting as a server. But again, that information has not been released yet. But the feature comes out October 21st.
That's soon.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm definitely going to give that a try to see how it works. But yeah, that's interesting. It also will be helpful.
A lot of Steam game sales, because a lot of stuff like the original Overcooked didn't have online multiplayer.
Nope, and like games like Blazing Chrome, which is a fantastic game, better than that piece of crap they put out for Contra. Definitely play Blazing Chrome. That's only local. That is only local co-op. With this, you could play online with people. That's going to be interesting, and this will likely be an alternative for developers who don't have the resources or the know-how to make a game playable over the internet. But as long as they have a a second player or third player or multiplayer option, this might be an alternative. So yeah, I'm excited for
local
that.
co-op a much more viable option for devs on PC, because I know a lot of like, especially AAA devs, they elect to not put a split screen option in their games on PC.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Borderlands 3 has one on PC. I think it's only split screen on consoles, but like, that's not on Steam, but it'll be on Steam, and they might look at that feature and be like, well, maybe it's worth it to put a split screen in our game.
I didn't pay attention. Is Gears of War 5 or Gears 5 split screen? I thought they said
PC, I don't think. It's split screen on console. You can play that local on console, I believe. But on PC, I believe it's not.
I didn't pay attention to that because obviously my kids don't play that with me. So I need to check on that to see.
I'm curious too, because I've tried and used Parsec before, and I was relatively satisfied with
it.
it.
No, it does.
Still a few kinks
Gears 5 has 3-player split screen.
But is it on PC as well, though?
Yeah, that is PC.
Okay. All right.
That's gonna be interesting. So give that a try, and then
well, that's also online co-op though, right? So like, you can just have your friends hop in there.
No, but I want to see how it works local. I want to see how
test it. But I guess it also means like your friends won't have to buy the game. You can just be like, hop in my Gears 5 game split screen. That's not how like SharePlay works. And so I don't think Parsec works that way.
Yeah, Parsec, you don't have to own the.
I think it should, because it's local multiplayer. Why would everybody have to own the game for local multiplayer?
I don't know. And then again, they haven't released our information, so once we know more.
The way other services work is like one player hosts the game, and it's essentially just streaming what's on their screen. So if it's streaming the split screen, like.
We'll have to wait, but that's what it sounds like as well. So, but they didn't release all the information regarding it, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
see if you do.
Requirement. Why haven't you?
If you have to own the game, this is dead in the water, and this is a pointless feature.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, if it's like anything like Parsec, I'm curious about like the quality of, because Parsec is still pretty good. I mean,
when I tried it
maybe a few months ago, but when I tried it, it was pretty good. No major issues.
You see, just looking at the press here. Yeah, nothing has mentioned it.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to own the game. That I highly, highly doubt it. Like, it'd be worthless if you had to, because that's essentially just online co-op, but you're streaming it through a split screen.
Yeah, that does make sense.
It'll likely just be like a Steam invite and be like, hey, I'm hosting whatever they're calling this. Come join, and then.
Yeah, host has to send an invite to your friends via their Steam overlay.
Yeah, so it'll just be like that.
Interesting.
Cool.
Wait, what just happened here? Oh, and apparently Need for Speed Heat went gold, and EA didn't really say anything. Huh?
That game's out in a month.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Death Stranding's out in a month.
Right next to Death Stranding. Yep.
It's the same day.
So
wow, those games are out soon, aren't they?
Yeah.
Modern Warfare's out in 2 weeks. What is happening?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are going to play that on the PC now, because there's all this Blizzard crap, and all these people deleting their Battle.net accounts.
Man, probably still a lot. It's Call of Duty.
Yeah, it is Call of Duty.
I deleted my account. Why did I do that? Let me just re-register. Because you delete your account, you lose all your stuff.
Well, if you're one of those people, you could always play Outer Worlds on the same day, Xbox Game Pass. If you want to support another company.
There's too many games. Too many games.
Yeah.
Oh, well. All right, folks, we've reached the end of the Spectator Mode Podcast, episode 35. Anything that you want to say before we close out?
Play Asgard's Wrath. Support VR games.
Rob?
Make as many political statements as you want, and don't be afraid of corporate overlords trying to take your life. There you go. That could have been said better, but there you go.
All right, and I'm going to say check out the Spectator Mode Podcast on audioboom.com, as well as Nintendo Entertainment Podcast, which you also can check out at audioboom.com or Google Play or Spotify or iTunes or wherever podcasts are hosted. Once again, it's Keith, Rob, and Diego saying thanks for checking out our show, and we'll talk to you later. Go play some games.